Sometimes the most painful turning point in your life is not a punishment. It is Allah's protection arriving quietly. A person leaves and everything feels unfinished. There is no clear ending, no proper goodbye, only a heavy silence where certainty used to live. Your heart keeps replaying memories, asking questions your mind cannot settle. You wonder how something that felt so meaningful could be removed so completely. But what if that ending was not loss? What if Allah stepped in at the exact moment your heart was about to carry more than it could survive? Allah does not always protect you by giving you what you are attached to. Sometimes He protects you by removing what was slowly stealing your peace, your clarity, and your strength. If someone was taken out of your life and you are still searching for answers, listen carefully. This separation may not be the breaking of your story. It may be Allah rescuing you before the damage became permanent. Allah removes them to return your peace. Before they left, your heart was never fully calm, even when things looked fine on the outside. You might have laughed together, talked often, or shared memories, but deep inside there was always a tightness. Your mind stayed busy. You replayed messages. You wondered what they really meant. You worried about saying the wrong thing or being misunderstood. Your heart stayed alert instead of relaxed, as if it was always preparing for disappointment. Over time, this becomes exhausting. You stop feeling safe in your own emotions. Love begins to feel like work. You carry a quiet heaviness that follows you into your prayers, your sleep, and your daily life. When this is not how the heart is meant to live. A heart that is protected by Allah is not constantly anxious. When the separation happens, the pain is real. It hurts to lose someone you cared about. There is sadness, emptiness, and moments where the silence feels loud. But alongside that pain, something else slowly appears. Your breathing feels deeper. Your chest no longer feels tight all the time. Your thoughts are not racing like before. You still miss them, but you are no longer tense. You begin to notice small changes. You sleep a little better. You smile without forcing it. You no longer feel afraid of being yourself. The constant fear of losing them is gone, because they are already gone. And strangely, that fear leaving brings relief. This calm is not coincidence. It is not you getting used to it. It is Allah lifting a burden your heart had been carrying quietly for a long time. Allah does not remove people who bring true peace into your life. When someone leaves and your heart slowly becomes calmer instead of more broken, it is often a sign that your soul was being disturbed more than it was being comforted. Allah sometimes removes a person, not to empty your heart, but to give it room to breathe again. The peace you feel returning is not something new. It is something that belonged to you before the worry began. Allah breaks the bond before it breaks you. Sometimes a connection grows so strong that it quietly takes over your heart. Without realizing it, your mood begins to depend on one person. Your happiness rises when they are close and falls when they pull away. Their words affect your confidence. Their absence affects your peace. You start adjusting yourself just to keep the bond alive. At first it feels like love, but slowly it turns into something heavier. You may begin to tolerate things you once would not accept. You explain their behavior to yourself. You wait longer than you should. You ignore the way your needs are slowly being pushed aside. Deep down, you feel yourself bending, but you tell yourself this is normal, that this is what caring for someone looks like. This is the moment Allah steps in. Allah knows when a bond is no longer healthy for the heart. He knows when attachment is turning into dependence. He sees when you are leaning on a person for emotional safety, reassurance, or identity in a way that only He should carry. And because Allah loves you, He does not allow that bond to continue until it destroys you. So He breaks it. The break often feels sudden. You are not ready. You still had hope. You still believed things could change. That is why the pain feels sharp. But what feels like cruelty is actually protection. Allah ends the connection before it becomes the thing that completely shatters your self-worth, your trust, and your ability to love again. If the bond had continued, it might have drained you slowly. It might have left deeper scars. It might have taken years of healing instead of months. Allah shortens the pain by ending it early, even when your heart is still attached. After the separation, you may feel lost at first. You wonder who you are without them. Your routines feel empty. Your emotions feel unsteady. But with time, something important happens. You begin to stand on your own again. Your emotions stop swinging so wildly. Your sense of self starts to return. You realize how much of yourself you had placed in their hands. Allah breaks the bond before it breaks you, because He wants you whole. He wants your heart strong, not dependent. He wants your love to be chosen freely, not clung to out of fear. What Allah protects you from in that moment is not just a person, but a version of pain you were never meant to carry. Allah exposes the truth only distance can reveal. When someone is close to you, it becomes very hard to see clearly. Emotions blur judgment. Attachment softens reality. You focus on the good moments and push away the uncomfortable ones. When something hurts you, you excuse it. When something feels wrong, you tell yourself you are overthinking. The heart, and when attached, is very good at protecting the connection, even at its own expense. While they were present, you may have ignored signs that made you uneasy. Maybe you felt confused often, but called it complexity. Maybe you felt unseen, but told yourself you were asking for too much. Maybe you felt emotionally tired, but convinced yourself that love is supposed to be hard. When someone is near, the heart tries to keep them close, even if it means accepting less than peace. Then distance happens. When Allah creates space between you and that person, something shifts inside you. At first, the distance hurts. You miss their presence. You miss the routine. You miss what you hoped they would become. But slowly, as the noise fades, your mind becomes quieter. Your heart starts noticing things it could not see before. You begin to remember moments that did not sit right with you. You recall how often you felt unsure. You realize how many times you felt anxious instead of secure. Without their voice influencing your thoughts, you hear your own feelings more clearly. The confusion that once lived inside the relationship begins to make sense outside of it. Distance removes pressure. You are no longer trying to hold things together. You are no longer managing emotions, fixing misunderstandings, or waiting for change. In that stillness, truth rises naturally, not because you forced it, but because Allah allowed clarity to replace attachment. You may start to see that what you were holding on to was not peace, but hope. Not stability, but potential. Not love as it should be, but love as you wished it could become. This realization can hurt, but it is also freeing. Allah exposes truth through distance because the heart needs quiet to understand itself. When someone is too close, their presence can drown out your inner voice. When Allah removes them, He gives your heart space to speak honestly. This clarity is not meant to shame you or make you regret the past. It is meant to protect your future. Once you see the truth clearly, you are less likely to walk back into confusion again. And that clarity is a mercy only Allah can give. Allah separates you from what was shrinking your growth. Not everything that holds you back looks harmful at first. Some things feel comfortable, familiar, even loving, yet quietly stop you from becoming who you are meant to be. While you were connected to that person, you may not have noticed how much you were changing inside. Your dreams became smaller. Your energy dropped. Your focus shifted away from your own growth. You might have delayed goals without realizing it. You may have prayed less deeply, read less, reflected less. Not because you stopped caring, but because your emotional energy was being used somewhere else. You were investing so much into the relationship that there was little left for yourself. Growth slowed down quietly, without warning. Sometimes you begin shaping your life around another person's comfort instead of your own purpose. You hold back your opinions. You avoid certain paths. You choose peace in the relationship over truth in your heart. Over time, this creates a version of you that is smaller, quieter, and less alive than who you once were. Allah notices this even when you do not. And Allah loves your growth more than your comfort. He loves your potential more than your attachments. When something begins to shrink you, emotionally, spiritually, or mentally, Allah does not allow it to stay forever. Even if that thing feels safe to you, Allah sees the cost. When the separation happens, it feels like something important has been taken. At first there is loss, but then, slowly, space opens up. You have time again. You have mental clarity again. You start thinking about your goals, your faith, your direction. The parts of you that were quiet begin to speak again. You may feel motivation returning. Your discipline improves. Your connection with Allah strengthens. You become more aware of yourself and your needs. This is not coincidence. This is growth coming back to life. Allah separates you from what was shrinking you so you can expand again. What leaves creates room for who you are becoming. And when growth returns after a separation, it is often proof that Allah removed what was limiting you. Not because it was evil, but because it was not meant to shape your future. Allah saves you from a future pain you could not foresee. When something ends, all you can see is the pain in front of you. You feel the loss of what you hoped for. You feel the sadness of what did not work out. Your heart focuses on what you're losing right now because that is the only pain you can touch and understand. But Allah sees beyond the present moment. There are pains that do not appear immediately. They grow slowly over time. They come from repeated disappointment, broken trust, unmet promises, and emotional neglect that becomes normal. While you were still connected, you could not see how deep the damage might have gone in the future. You only saw the good moments and believed things would improve. Allah knows which paths lead to long-term hurt. He sees the arguments that would have increased, the misunderstandings that would have deepened, and the emotional wounds that would have taken years to heal. He sees the version of you that would have slowly become tired, doubtful, and emotionally worn down. So Allah intervenes early. The separation feels unfair because the future pain is hidden from you. You are grieving what might have been, not what actually was. You imagine a happy ending, but Allah sees the ending clearly, and He knows it would not have brought peace. This is why protection often feels like loss. Allah is not only concerned with how you feel today, He is protecting your tomorrow, your faith, your dignity, and your ability to trust again. What feels like heartbreak now may have been the beginning of lifelong regret if it had continued. With time, this truth becomes clearer. Months or years later, you may hear about their life, their choices, or their patterns, and you realize how different your path has become. You see situations that would have caused you deep pain had you stayed. That realization arrives quietly, but it brings understanding. Allah saves you from future pain you could not foresee because your vision is limited to now. His mercy extends far beyond the moment. Even when you do not understand the removal, trust that Allah did not take something away to hurt you. He removed it to protect you from a suffering you were never meant to carry. Allah restores your dignity by ending what disrespected it. Sometimes disrespect does not arrive loudly. It does not always come as insults or clear harm. Often, it appears quietly, in being ignored, in being taken for granted, in always being the one who tries harder, waits longer, explains more, and forgives without change. Over time, this kind of treatment slowly wears down your dignity. You may not even notice it happening at first. You tell yourself to be patient. You convince yourself that love requires sacrifice. You adjust your standards little by little. You accept less effort, less clarity, and less care than you once believed you deserved. Without realizing it, you begin shrinking your worth to keep the connection alive. This is where Allah intervenes. Allah does not allow the dignity of His servant to be slowly eroded forever. He sees every moment you felt small. He sees every time you questioned your value. He sees the way you kept showing up while being met with uncertainty or emotional distance. And when the situation continues to take from your self-respect, Allah ends it. The ending may hurt deeply, but it stops a greater harm. It stops the habit of lowering yourself to stay loved. It stops the cycle of waiting for someone to treat you properly. Allah removes you from the place where your dignity was being quietly compromised. After the separation, something begins to change. At first, you feel rejected. You wonder why you were not enough. But slowly, your self-respect starts returning. You stop chasing answers. You stop needing validation. You no longer feel the urge to prove your worth to anyone. You remember who you were before you started doubting yourself. You begin setting boundaries again, not out of anger, but out of self-awareness. You realize that love should never require humiliation, constant fear, or emotional begging. The confidence you thought you lost was not gone. It was simply buried under a situation that did not honor you. Allah restores your dignity by ending what disrespected it, because dignity is not something you must earn. It is something Allah already gave you, and He does not leave His servants in places where their worth is slowly forgotten. Allah teaches your heart what love is never meant to cost. Not every connection is meant to last forever. Some exist only to teach the heart. While you are inside the relationship, it is hard to tell the difference. You believe that love requires endurance, patience, and sacrifice, so you keep giving even when it hurts. You convince yourself that feeling tired, anxious, or unsure is just part of caring deeply. But love was never meant to cost you your peace. During that time, your heart may have paid prices it should never have paid. Constant worry, fear of losing them, doubt about your worth, silence where reassurance should have been, effort that was not met equally. You carried emotional weight every day and called it love because you did not know better. When Allah allows that connection to end, the lesson begins to settle. You start to understand that love should not make you feel small. It should not keep you awake at night with fear. It should not leave you confused more than it makes you feel safe. Real love does not drain your energy or make you question your value. It does not require you to suffer quietly to keep it alive. This realization does not come to shame you. It comes to protect you. Allah allows your heart to experience what love should not cost, so you will recognize what healthy love feels like later. You learn to notice warning signs sooner. You become more aware of your emotional needs. You stop calling pain normal just to stay connected. With time, your standards change. Not because you became harder, but because you became wiser. You no longer chase intensity. You look for stability. You no longer confuse attachment with love. You look for peace. Allah teaches your heart these lessons now so that in the future, when something real arrives, you will not push it away or fail to recognize it. When the pain you felt was not wasted, it trained your heart to seek what love was always meant to be: safe, calm, and dignified. Allah pulls you back to Him through the pain of loss. When someone leaves your life, the noise fades, the messages stop, the routine breaks, and suddenly, you are alone with your thoughts in a way you were not before. That quiet can feel heavy at first, but it also creates space where the heart begins to turn inward. During the connection, your attention may have been divided. Your emotions were tied to another person. Your happiness rose and fell with their presence. Even your du'as may have started revolving around them more than around Allah. Without realizing it, your heart leaned toward the creation more than the Creator. Allah notices this shift, so when the loss happens, it shakes you awake. The pain drives you back to prayer, not out of habit, but out of need. You speak to Allah honestly. You cry in sujood. You ask questions you were too distracted to ask before. In your weakness, you become sincere again. This return is not punishment. It is mercy. Loss strips away false support and reminds you where true safety comes from. People can leave. Plans can collapse. Promises can fade. But Allah remains. When everything else feels uncertain, turning back to Him brings grounding and stability. Your heart was searching for all along. You may notice that your faith deepens during this time. You reflect more. You become more aware of your dependence on Allah. Your heart softens. You begin trusting Him again, not just for outcomes, but for comfort. Allah pulls you back to Him through loss because He wants your heart anchored where it cannot be shaken. The pain is not meant to push you away from Him. It is meant to draw you closer, and closeness to Allah is never a loss, even when it arrives through heartbreak. Allah ends. Misaligned paths before lives become entangled. When two people imagine a future together, it feels real long before it ever happens. You picture conversations, plans, milestones, and a life that seems possible if things just work out. Your heart commits before circumstances do. But imagining a future does not mean the paths are truly aligned. Allah sees alignment in ways we cannot. Two people can care deeply for each other and still be moving in different directions. Values may differ. Priorities may not match. Faith may not be shared at the same depth. One may be growing while the other is standing still. These differences are not always obvious at the beginning. They appear slowly, often after attachment has already formed. If those paths continued, lives would become tightly entangled. Decisions would affect families. Faith would be tested under pressure. Separation later would be far more painful and far more damaging. Allah, in His mercy, does not wait for everything to break before He intervenes. So He ends it early, The ending feels confusing because from your side, it looked workable. You believed effort could fix misalignment. You believed patience would solve differences. But Allah knows when effort would only lead to sacrifice without peace. He knows when compromise would cost you things that should never be given up. Ending something before lives become deeply entangled is protection. It saves you from harder choices later. It saves you from walking away after investing years of emotion, time, and identity. It saves you from wounds that take much longer to heal. With time, you may notice how differently your life unfolds after the separation. Your priorities become clearer. Your values strengthen. You begin walking a path that feels more honest to who you are. That is when you realize the paths were never meant to merge. Allah ends misaligned paths, not because the connection lacked feeling, but because it lacked harmony. And Allah values harmony over attachment, because harmony is what brings lasting peace. Allah clears the way for what is written to remain. When someone leaves your life, it can feel like the end of something important. The space they leave behind feels empty, unfamiliar, and uncomfortable. You may wonder how anything good could come after such loss. But emptiness is not always a sign of absence. Sometimes it is a sign of preparation. Allah does not remove without purpose. When the wrong person is present, they take up emotional space, mental energy, and heart capacity. Even if the connection feels meaningful, it can quietly block what is truly meant for you. As long as that space is occupied, what is written cannot fully arrive or settle, so Allah clears the way. This clearing feels painful because it requires letting go. But once the space opens, your heart slowly becomes available again. Not desperate, not rushed, but ready. You begin healing. You learn from what passed. You become more aware of what you truly need and what you will no longer accept. What is written for you does not need to compete with confusion. It does not arrive in chaos. It does not ask you to abandon yourself or your peace. When it comes, it settles naturally. It feels steady, not anxious. Clear, not uncertain. Calm, not draining. Allah clears the way so that what stays can stay without resistance. What is written for you will not come with fear of loss or constant doubt. It will not require you to chase, beg, or prove your worth. It will recognize you, and you will recognize it. If Allah removed someone from your life, trust that it was not to leave you empty, but to make room. What is meant to remain will not struggle to stay, and when it arrives, you will understand why everything else had to leave. What left your life did not escape Allah's knowledge, and it did not happen without reason. Even the pain you felt was seen, measured, and held with care. Allah did not remove someone to punish you, weaken you, or leave you empty. He removed them to protect your heart, your future, and your peace. Some losses are answers to du'as you did not know how to make. Some endings are mercy in disguise. What Allah takes away was never meant to stay, and what is meant for you will never miss you. Trust the separation. Trust the silence. Trust the healing that followed. Allah only clears what blocks the path to what is written.